Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Sunday Bhagavatam class, September 26th, 2021. So today we're beginning with verse, first canto, chapter 13, text 35. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, a very interesting section here. There's a lot of psychology in the verses we're going to do today. So, beginning with 1:13:35, Sutta Vacha. Sutta said, Kripaya sneha vaiklavyat sutta vidaha karshitaha atmeshwaram achakshano na pratyahati pidita. So, the scene is that Sanjaya has discovered that his, as you would call them, his lords, Gandhari and Draupadi and also Vidura are gone, and they didn't tell him where they were going. And I think to put this in perspective, Dhritarashtra, of course, was blind, and so his dependence on his helpers, his assistants, was more than even for an ordinary person. So over the years, many years, a relationship develops of dependence, and of course Sanjaya was very devoted to Dhritarashtra, even though he knew that he wasn't doing great things. So you have this kind of relationship where you think, like, how are they going to live without me? Because for his whole life, Sanjaya is helping, and you could say Dhritarashtra had a certain dependence, and so it's that kind of relationship. So it's interesting, the words that we find here in the Bhagavatam. So here it says kripaya, out of compassion, but sneha vaiklavyat. So this word vaiklavya is very important. Vaiklavya just means because of vaiklavya. So because of affection, vaiklavya. Sneha means affection. So in the Sanskrit dictionary, vaiklavya means frailty, feebleness, or mental weakness. It's very interesting. In other words, affection can make one mentally weak, where you cannot be objective. You cannot say what you have to say or do what you have to do because of all this affection. So, and of course, it's out of compassion, which is important, that Sanjaya is not, his motives, at least on the worldly platform, his motives are not grossly selfish, kripaya, out of compassion, but out of compassion, he became mentally weak because compassion led him to all this affection. And of course, this reminds us of Arjuna. It's interesting how Sanjaya narrated Arjuna's problem at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, which was very similar. In fact, we have the same word, because here in this verse, it said that this mental weakness because of affection was kripaya, because of compassion. This is the same word, compassion, kripa, which Arjuna used when he surrenders to Krishna. Arjuna says karpanya doshopahata savava. So karpanya is just comes from the word kripa, which means compassion, and karpanya, dosha. But it's interesting because also, just as here it said that that compassion, mercy, has led to mental weakness, a certain affection and mental weakness. So Arjun says that I have karpanya dosha upahata. I have been struck by upahata, or I'm being affected by Karpanya dosha, the weakness or the fault or the mistake of sort of a mistaken compassion, Karpanya dosha. So it's interesting how Sanjaya narrated that, Arjuna's condition, but now he has the same problem, although and he's going to get the same solution that Arjuna did, namely spiritual knowledge. So, Kripaya Sneha Vaiklavyat Sutta, the Sutta, that's Sanjaya. It's interesting because Sutta means the reciter, like we say Sutta Goswami, although technically Goswami was not really a term used back then at the time of Sutta. Shukadev Goswami or Sutta Goswami, it's at the time they lived, those words were not really used. But anyway, but we understand Prabhupada is sort of bringing them in, to us in a way that we can understand the modern world. So Sutta means a reciter. Sutta is actually a title, just like Vyasa. Vyasa is not actually the person's name. It means the editor, or literally the divider, or the editor, the arranger. And the Bhagavatam says there are many Vyasas, because from time to time the Vedas have to be reorganized, and then a Vyasa comes, an arranger, an organizer. His actual name was, he had various names. He's called Satyavati Sutta, which means the son of Satyavati. He's called Parasharya because his father was Parashara. And also perhaps the name, which is most just his name, Vyasa, is Dvaipayana, from the word Dvipa, which means island, because he was born on an island. But in any case, so just as Vyasa is a title, Sutta is also a title, but it means the reciter, but it also means a charioteer. It's very interesting because the recitations of the Puranas very often deal with kings and warriors. And so who knows what really happened on the battlefield? Well, the warrior or the king's chariot driver. Because after all, the only real eyewitness, in a battle, if you read the battle scenes, the Mahabharata, or just about battles, it's very confusing. People are running around, killing each other. And so the only person who's really focused all the time on a particular warrior is his chariot driver. So it's really just the chariot driver that knows everything that happened, let's say, to the king or to a warrior. So therefore, it seems that just from the words, that chariot drivers also, because kings weren't always doing battle, it's not that they were battling every day for years. Battles just occasionally would come. So it seems that the chariot drivers, of course, they would also drive their royal patron around, but also they would recite, it seems. They would also say, this is what really happened, because the chariot driver is the eyewitness, is really the only person that knows everything that happened to this warrior. So anyway, so here it says, so therefore, Sanjay is also Sutta, because he is a reciter, and he also appears actually, in some versions, he sometimes appears on battlefields. So Sutta here is not the person that we call Sutta Goswami, but this is actually Sanjaya. So Sutta Vidaha Karshita. These words are interesting. Vidaha means separation, like Vidaha Bhakti, devotion and separation. So because of separation from his master, he's Karshita, which Prabhupada translates here, distressed by, in the word for words. The one very interesting point about Karshita, Prabhupada says, aggrieved, is that it comes from the same root as the word Krishna. So Krishna means to attract, to pull, and think in English of the words attraction and traction, like a tractor. So it means pulling. So karshita means he's being pulled by separation. So let's go to the Sanskrit dictionary. Give you see what the dictionary says about the word karshita. It can mean emaciated or thin, or but so that's not really the translation we want here. But anyway, it's you get the idea that he's distressed. He's maybe, once he found out that his patrons were gone, he couldn't really do anything. He couldn't eat. You know, when people are depressed, they stop eating. So that's another point. Anyway, regarding the word karshita, it had, anyway, I won't go into all the technical grammatical details and ways that it's different from the root from Krishna, but has a different S. But anyway, forget that. So achakshanu, not seeing Atmeswaram, literally the Lord of his Lord. Atma could mean self or soul, and therefore it's also used reflexively like his own master, Atmeswaram, the master of himself. So Atma Iswaram Achakshanu, not seeing his master. Na pratyaha, he didn't reply. So Yudhishthira is speaking to him, where are my uncles Vidura and Dhritarashtra, but na pratyaha. Sanjay is too disturbed, too depressed to reply, and atipidita, being extremely aggrieved. The word pidita in Sanskrit means hurt, injured, afflicted, distressed, troubled. So he's so distressed, he's so afflicted by this that he doesn't answer the question. So we get that one verse, and then but he realizes he has to answer. So Vimrija Shuni, wiping his tears, literally, Vimrija Ashuni, wiping his tears, Pani Bhyam, with his two hands. So he, with both hands. It's a very interesting detail. You know, sometimes you can just wipe your tears with one hand. So here with two hands, with both his hands, he's wiping his tears. Interesting detail. Vimrja Shuni Pani Bhyam, Vistabhyatmana Matmana, and steadying himself by himself. So it's typical and elegant sort of turn of speech in Sanskrit. Atmanam Atmana. So with his two hands wiping his eyes and steadying himself by himself, Ajata Shatrum Pratyuche. Now he replied to Ajata Shatru, Yudhishthira. So at first he didn't reply, he was too distressed. He wipes his eyes, he steadies himself, and now he replies, Prabho Padav Anusmaran. So he replies, Anusmaran, steadily remembering Prabhu Padal, the 2 feet of his Prabhu's 2 feet. So seriously, like he really focused, remembering Anusmaran Prabhu Padal, the 2 feet of his Prabhu, of his master. So Sanjay Uvacha, this is what he said, Naham Veda Vyavasitam Pitor Bhak Kulanandana. So he's very dutiful. At first he was too emotional, then he got a hold of himself. And so he addresses Yudhishthira as Kulanandana, the joy of your family, Kulanandana. And he does his duty. That's what I find interesting, because the first thing, he doesn't say, I'm so distressed, I'm depressed, I'm miserable. First, he does his duty, and he replies to Yudhishthira's question. He does his duty and provides the information that Yudhishthira requested. He said, Naham Veda, I don't know Vyavasitam, the plan or the determination, as Prabhupada translates it. or the decision, or I just don't know the plan of Pitror, of your two fathers, which means your uncles. Pitror Vak. And the word your is Vak, which means the plural. So he's talking about all the Pandavas. Little detail. So I don't know the plan. I don't know what they decided to do. Your two uncles. Gandharyava, or of Gandhari, or of Gandhari. I don't know what she's decided to do. Mahavaho, what she decided to do. Yeah. Maha, mighty armed one, Yudhisthira, Mushitosmi Mahatmavi. I've been cheated by great souls. So it's interesting. I've been cheated, and the word he uses there is Mushita. Interesting word. So Mushita in Sanskrit in the dictionary means stolen, robbed, bereft, or deprived of, or it can mean deceived, which I think is kind of the idea here. I was deceived, or I was cheated, or I'm deprived of. Of course, obviously, speaking out of love, I've been deceived in the sense they didn't tell me; they just vanished by great souls. I've been deceived by great souls. Prabhupada says I've been cheated. Prabhupada translates it. So that's it. Sanjaya. So the Bhagavatam doesn't dwell on this. The Bhagavatam doesn't go on and on about Sanjaya's condition. It just says that he was that Sanjaya, Yudhisthira said, where did they so Sutuvacha it's interesting. His sutta speaking, and he talks about another sutta. So it simply says that he couldn't answer Yudhisthira's question, but then he gets a hold of himself. He wipes his tears. He with his two hands, he steadies himself, and then intensely remembering his master, he replies to Yudhisthira, and he just says, I don't know what they've decided to do. I don't know their plan. I don't know their determination of your two uncles, nor of Gandhari. I've been cheated by great souls. So that's it. We get that one statement from Sanjaya, and then Atajagama Bhagavan Narada. And then Lord Narada, Bhagavan Narada, came. So the Bhagavatam is not dwelling on all this depression. It mentions it, but then at that point, Ajagama Bhagavan Narada, Lord Narada came, Sahatumburu, with his tumburu, his musical instrument. Pratyuthaya vivadyaha sanuja vyarchi anonim. So then Yudhisthira, rising up out of respect to greet Narada, and saluting him or addressing him respectfully, which is Abhivadya, and Abhyarchayan, and honoring him, honoring the sage, Sa Anuja, with his younger brothers. Anu means after, and Ja means born. So born after, it means a younger brother. An Anuja, like, for example, Ramanuja, which is the name of the great Acharya, but it literally refers to the younger brothers of Rama, Anuja. So, and also actually Vamana is called Indranuja, or as devotees say, Indranuja or something. But it's Indranuja. So all those words means born after a younger brother. So Yudhisthira with his younger brothers, the other four Pandavas, Abhyarchayan Munim, honoring the sage. So rising up, respectfully saluting or greeting Narada, honoring him with his younger brothers, Yudhisthira said to the sage. This is what Yudhisthira said to the sage. Yudhisthira. By the way, the word Yudhisthira, you may Yudhi means in battle. In battle. and Yud, like Yud, and Stira means steady, steady in battle. That's what his name means, Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira said, Naham Veda Katim Pitor, I don't know the movements or the the way I don't know the path of your two uncles. No, it says of my two uncles. I'm sorry. I don't know, like gati, the going, literally the going. Ga means to go in Sanskrit. So gati means the path, the going, where they've gone. I don't know where my two uncles, basically, I don't know where my two uncles have gone. Bhagavan, oh Lord. So here, it's interesting because Narada, in the previous verse, is described by Sutta, the speaker of the Bhagavatam, as Bhagavan, and here Narada, here Yudhishthira addresses him as Bhagavan. This is actually, there's two words. Bhagavan is the Lord, and Bhagavan, with a short A, Bhagavan is when you're addressing the person. So Yudhishthira says, Bhagavan, addressing Narada, oh Lord, I don't know where my two uncles have gone. Kwa gataviha, where did they go? So he asked Narada, where did they go? Ambava and Amba, mother, a mother, in this case referring to Gandhari, Hataputarta, who is suffering the death of her sons. Her sons were killed, and she's suffering because that. Hataputarta, Kwagatacha tapaswini, where has that ascetic lady gone? So tapas, austerity, literally heat, like to sort of take heat on yourself, put yourself in the fire of austerity. And then so tapaswi is a man, ascetic, and the lady is tapaswini. So that means there are women. I mean, there are women who were yoginis and performed austerities. So kwagatacha tapaswini. So he asked Narada, where did my two uncles go? Where did Gandhari go? So he's asking these questions. And so maybe we'll stop there for a day. Leave you in suspense. So I'll look now and see if there are any questions. It's not a long class, but it's a class, Prabhupada. When Prabhupada gave class, he would chant Radha Madhava, which took some time. And then there would be the chanting of the verses. Prabhupada would chant, and the devotees would chant. And then they'd read the translation purport. So if you look at Prabhupada's Bhagavatam classes, the time he's actually speaking on the verse, a lot of times it wasn't that long. So let's see. There it is. So let me see if there are any questions today. Here we go. Looking for the questions, our weekly search for questions. To scroll down here. So thank you all for listening. Let's see. I think there's one question down at the bottom. Jagat Palana. Krishna told Arjuna, I have already killed them. Krishna also says he knows the future. Is our free will subordinate to Krishna's? It's a very interesting question. No, we have real free will. Our free will is only subordinate to the problems we put ourselves in. Like if someone jumps off a building, you can't change your mind halfway down, unless, of course, you have a parachute. So when Krishna says, Maya vete nihata purvameva, I've already killed them, what he means is that that's already the plan. Like, it's almost like, people, like if someone's going to kill someone, the plan is all set up and the plan is definitely going to work. So you see this movie, someone could say, yeah, I mean, he's a dead man. I mean, technically, he's still alive, but he's a dead man. And so Krishna's saying, I've already killed them, like these people are gone. Because so Krishna is talking not about what other people are going to do in the future, he's talking about what he's going to do. So if you have complete power to do something and you really made up your mind, then you can say it's done. And we talk that way. Someone like for example, someone would say, let's say someone tells someone you have to go to the bank today. Done. Actually, it's not done because the person hasn't gone to the bank. But I mean, it's just common thing. Done. I mean, before it's done. So that's what Krishna's saying. He's talking about his own free will and what he's going to do, not what other people are going to do. Let's see. There's another Radha Kanta, translating from Spanish. Constitutional monarchy began to deviate in the beginnings of Kali Yuga. Well, actually, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, because the Kurus, Duryodhana wasn't following the rules, so the deviation began even at the end of Dwapara Yuga. So Stuart Coyle, if you have a spiritual name, sorry, it's not there. Are there any historical evidences for the Mahabharata accepted by modern scholars? Well, we could ask, like, what kind of historical evidence would there be? All these events are taking place in an oral society. If you read the entire Bhagavatam, you will not find a single verse where anybody writes anything. Actually, the same for the Mahabharata. So it's an oral society, so we're not going to find written documents. As far as finding archaeological remains like palaces or things, India has been a continuously inhabited region. So if you look at some of the great archaeological finds in, say, the Middle East, where the weather actually is more favorable because it's very dry, they tend to find abandoned cities because let's say for example, Hastinapur, and if people continuously live there, of course, there's shastras that say that there was a great flood that destroyed Hastinapur. So, I mean, as far as evidences, there are scholars claim that they have found remnants of Hastinapur and Dwarka. Of course, the times are not exactly 5,000 years ago, although they're many thousands of years ago. So, yeah, that's a whole issue of the problems of doing archaeology in a country like India. So that's a different topic. Maybe someday we'll discuss that. So let's see. Krishna Priya, you spoke about that because of affection and compassion, it seems one loses clarity. How can we have affection and still discriminate? That's a very interesting question. Our intelligence has to be strong. I don't mean to say Yudhishthira's intelligence was not strong or Sanjaya, but of course they're performing pastimes, and so they're playing their roles. But this affection and this deluding, sometimes it can be delusional affection, and sometimes it can be well placed. Sometimes we can love the right person. So our intelligence has to be strong, so that even if we have strong feelings, we can still have strong intelligence and not do foolish things. So that's all the questions I see. Thank you all very much for showing up for our Sunday class, and I hope everyone is doing well. So, Hare Krishna, I hope we'll be together again. You're welcome, Krishna Priya. Hope we'll be together again next Sunday. Hare Krishna.